what we're going to talk about today is Win911 and OPC. Um, Back for a while ago, we released some new OPC modules. I just wanted to go over those things again with y'all. And if y'all have any questions about what's going on or what I'm showing you, just feel free to put it in the question section of the chat as we go, and I'll get to those at the end. So there are two things that we released back in R5, which is a new OPC data access module and a new OPC Alarms and Events module. And when we released those, there were some performance issues that we were seeing with OPC data access, which is the new OPC DA module. And we released a service pack for that, and I'll talk about that in a little bit too. But what I wanted to talk about today is just the OPC DA module, the new one, what kind of migration paths are available, talk about the OPC Alarm and Events module, and then get to y'all's questions. I'll do a little demo there too. So if you have some questions, just I'll just run through a few things so you can see the modules in action and quick setup stuff. So let's get started with the OPC stuff. So the OPC data access module, what this is going to be is a new OPC module that's replacing the existing module that we had. So we have had an OPC DA module for now in 2021 actually, and we've also had, this is the same module that we've had for now in V4, V3, V2. It's been around for a while, and there's always been some performance issues with it. It's never been that easy to configure. We wanted to take steps to make that easier for everybody to use. And we also wanted to add support for UA servers to it. So that is what our OPC data access module is in its core. It's a new module that's been overhauled. It has support for OPC DA Classic and OPC UA servers. It's replacing our existing module. The alarm configuration is, in my opinion, much simpler. Rather than letting you configure infinite particular tag, you're boxed into creating a Boolean alarm, a level alarm, or what we call a value match alarm, and I'll talk about that too in a little bit. The configuration itself for the alarms are really influenced by what was available in version 7. So if you're a version 7 customer and you haven't come forward to 2021, because maybe it's a little bit too different, I think you'll find the new module is pretty familiar to you in the way that alarms are configured. There's some of the old stuff and some new stuff in there that I think you will appreciate. Now, there's some basic stuff about OPC DA and OPC UA that I think if you guys are attending this, you probably already know about stuff. When you set up a new server, you're choosing whether you want to set up a DA Classic server or a UA server, and your configurations change on what you choose. Now, OPC DA is using DCOM for authentication, and it does support all the new DCOM changes that Microsoft implemented a while. During the summer, I believe. I've forgotten what the date was. While in OPC UA is going to use certificate-based authentication or security. And I first, a while ago, I used to think, oh, that's going to be a hassle, but I find the certificate-based authentication is much easier to deal with because you don't typically have problems. And if you have problems, you can figure them out. And as I'm going to guess some of you guys know, when you have DCOM problems and you can't immediately figure out, that just goes on and on and on. And it's a nightmare to deal with DCOM sometimes, especially in domain environments. With OPC UA, you don't have to deal with that. It's just, do you have the certificate on the right two machines? Domain authentication stuff doesn't matter. I just find it much easier to deal with. So the alarm types that we're supporting, these are them. I'll go through each one real quick. So we've got Boolean alarms, and these are just state alarms where you're choosing a trigger equal to 0 or not equal to 0. It's pretty, everyone I think knows how Boolean alarm works, and these are actual Boolean tags that you're connecting to. There's a new alarm type that we added for the patch that we released a few weeks ago, which we call value match alarms. And these are going to let you create state alarms that you can select. Well, I probably should have worded this better. Is you can't use multiple operators. You can select one of these operators. So it can be a less than, greater than, less than, equal to, greater than, equal to. You can choose any one of those operators and apply it to the value of your particular tag. We added this because we had some customers using the older OPC module, and we didn't really have a place for some of their alarms to go because we just were supporting Boolean and level alarms, and we made a mistake. We didn't, so we've added that back in. And if you want to use these value match alarms, you got to make sure you install the patch, which I'll talk about later. There's a level alarms, which you create a tag and you enable or disable high, low, and low alarms on it. Nothing special there. And if you want, this technically is an alarm type, but if you want to import tags into your configuration so that you can put them in reports, then you can import those as no alarm. So these are just going to be data tags you can set into a report. There's also Watchdog Alarms, which have always been there. Nothing really changed there. And then we have, for OPC UA servers, a health alarm that will tell us whether you're connected or not to the server. So it's similar to the way people would configure a Watchdog alarm in a way, but it's just automatically there, and you don't have to do anything special with tags or anything. You just have to enable it and point it to a notification policy, and we'll let you know if you're connected to a server or not. So let's run through some of the details of the alarm configuration. This is a Boolean alarm, and you've got a few fields here. I mean, it's pretty basic stuff, I think. The first field, and I probably should have updated this screenshot for you. We've actually reversed these two fields. I hope you can see my mouse pointer. This field and this field have been swapped with the patch, and that's because it's much easier for you to identify your tag based on your user-friendly name versus the item ID. So that's something to look for in the patch once you install it and update. So, but anyway, you've got the item ID field. You've got the alarm name, that's the user-friendly name, the alarm type, and this one, of course, is Boolean. And then we've got bit picking. So bit picking is something that we didn't have before in the new Win 911, but we had it in version 7. So we wanted to bring that back. And this is available for the Boolean and for the value match alarms. It's not available. So it's just these two. Then you've got your notification policy. That's where you're going to send when this alarm becomes active. This is where you send what call out list it's going to go to. You've got a description field, which I mean is pretty basic. A description field is just for the tag itself. It's if you want to add additional context to this particular tag that you can. The units, which for a Boolean seems kind of weird, but I'll explain why you would have units for a second. And you've also got this get value button at the bottom. So if you put a tag in and you're not sure if the syntax is right, you can click that button and it will try to connect to it and tell you the value. If it doesn't connect, it will give you an error so you know if your server is working or not. All right, sorry, my headset is turned off there. All right, so let's get value. And we'll go, and then of course you got labels. These are tags you can attach on. They're kind of like meta tags, I guess, if you want to think about that. It's a way for you to group tags together. So if you have a bunch of freshwater tank alarms, you can use those labels later on in advanced workflows. This webinar is really not about advanced workflows or anything like that. If you're interested in that, there are other webinars we have on our website you can check out. Get into the actual details of the alarm configuration. So you've got the alarm trigger condition. So this is where you choose whether it's going to be equal to or not equal to 0. So you just choose from the drop down which one you want. You've got your priority, You've got an alarm delay. This is new to Win 911. So basically what an alarm delay will do is this alarm condition has to be there for some amount of time before an alarm goes away, or if the alarm condition clears before the delay is up, then no alarm's ever created. So you can use these things, an alarm delay, to help cut down on chattering alarms. We've got two description fields that either one is what the description you will see depending on whether the alarm is active or inactive. This is something we added to this module. So you've got that one description that's static all the time that I showed you on the previous slide. But if you want to have particular text, depending on whether it's active or inactive, you can do that here. So you can have something different. That's a new field that was in version 7 we brought over. And this is why I mentioned why you would want to have a units for your particular tag. So a lot of times our customers will use Boolean alarms to represent a level alarm. So maybe they've got all their alarms configured as Booleans within their PLC, and they represent like a level alarm, whether a tank level is high or low or whatever it may be. But when they get the alarm notification, that notification is just going to tell you it's 1 or a 0, the value of that particular tag. But if you wanted to actually know the tank level instead of whether the alarm is 1 or 0, which isn't really helpful because you already know that it's 1 or 0 based on the alarm state, then you can put this value substitution tag in, and it will give you the value of that particular tag. So in this case, it's showing you the current value of this freshwater storage tank. You can see it says .cv on the end. So when you get this alarm notification sent to you, you'll see that, and it will pin the units on it. And so you're still using a Boolean alarm, but you're getting the actual value of the thing you're monitoring in your PLC. The next thing is acknowledgement sync. This is another feature we've added. What acknowledgement sync allows you to do is try to sync your acknowledgements with your SCADA system. So if the ACK bit is exposed by the SCADA system you're connecting to, then you can use these two fields. So this top field is going to read the ACK state, and what you're putting over here is what value represents the acknowledgement state. So in a lot of cases, it's going to be 1 or 0. So if something's acknowledged, then the value will be 1 on this particular tag. So you can see this is a different tag. And this is where you're going to, we'll get to it. One of these is read, one of these is write. We've changed it. It's got labels on it, so you can tell now. But what it's doing is it's going to read it, see the value, evaluate what you put in there. And then the other one is the write tag. So if you want to write the acknowledgement back to the SCADA, you put in what you want to write to acknowledge the alarm. In some cases, these won't be the same. In some cases, they will. Even the tags may or may not be the same. So for example, if you want to do this with InTouch, I've got one, it's writing the value of 1 and it's reading the value of true because it's technically a Boolean tag that you're reading out of. So those can be different, and these could also be different depending on your SCADA. So this acknowledgement sync allows you to try to sync up your SCADA, so you don't have to have, even if you're not doing a direct connect that we have, one of our proprietary connections, you can still try to maintain a that direct connect like functionality with the acknowledgement sync. This is not true anymore, Boolean alarms only. This is actually going to be available for the value match alarms too. The value match alarms, the only thing that's different is this right here, is when you set up the alarm, you have all these different operators to choose from. Instead of just equal to, not equal to 0, you can choose your operator and type in the value here. Again, we added this with the patch because customers were, with the older OPC module, were not able to replicate their alarms in the new module. And so we had to go back, add it in there. And so you may be thinking to yourself, well, what's really the difference between the value match alarms and the Boolean? The Boolean alarms are really meant to look at Boolean tags. I mean, you could just set up everything as a value match alarm if you wanted. It doesn't really matter. It's going to be up to you how you want to configure it. The functionality is going to be the same. But we couldn't go back and just get rid of the Boolean alarm because it's already been out there. So so Boolean alarms, value match alarms are very much similar, except that you can choose your different operators here. Obviously, a Boolean alarm is 1 or 0, and this is allowing you to choose less than or greater than type operators, but it's still just true or false depending on what that operation that you're going to have evaluate. Again, everything else is the same. The configuration of all the alarm properties we just looked at. The other alarm type is level alarms. These are, I mean, these, excuse me, these are a pretty basic configuration. You've got a deadband that you can choose from, and the deadband allows you to set value or percentage percentage of the value. I mean, if you don't know what a deadband is, it basically means that that particular value, the value of the tag has to exceed the deadband. So here, this is also helps you cut back on chattering alarms. So if you have your threshold set to 90, it needs to go down below 85 before that alarm will clear out of the high state. That's a deadband. You've also got the alarm delay, that's still there. And this is the level alarm configuration. You choose which particular you want to enable, set your limit, set your descriptions and priority. Each of these alarms are treated as their own, meaning they have all of them have their own ACK bit. So if you have a high and a high alarm that are active, and you ACK the high alarm, it's not going to automatically ACK the high alarm. They're all treated independently. Those are level alarms. Watchdog alarms, these are alarms where we watch a particular tag value, and if it doesn't update within the time interval, which I realize I cut the headers off of this, which, well, I mean, it would be nice to know what the headers were, but the timeout period is right there, 90 seconds. So if you don't see an update within that timer, then this alarm becomes active. So it's a good way to monitor a PLC or your connection if you're using OPC. It'll tell you whether or not you have disconnected. Notification policy, priority, the rest of it's pretty much the same. So that's it for the alarm configuration itself. And with the new modules, the new OPC DA module, we've got a couple different import options available that weren't available before. The first one is one that has been there, which is you can browse your server for items. You've got the item list CSV. This is where if you can't browse, you can put your items in a CSV list and use our import wizard to import them into 1911. There's the OPC export, which kind of sounds weird, but what you can do with this is you can use Excel to create your tag configuration and then import it into Win911. So that's your mass edit type stuff there. And then there's the legacy Win911 SQL database. So if you have an older version of Win911 and you were using OPC and you upgrade to the new OPC, sorry, my headset always turns off when I'm using GoToWebinar. Sorry about that. But if the legacy import is, if you have the old module there and you want to import from that, that's what it will do. If you upgrade to the new module, the old configuration will still be there, but it doesn't automatically migrate into the new module. So you'll install Win911 with the new module, and your configuration for the OPC stuff will be empty. You will have to go to the SQL database import wizard and import your tags through there. So you can import them that way, or you can recreate all your tags from scratch if you wanted to do that. But And then the last one is a version 7 import utility. We updated that so it would support the new alarm types, or sorry, the new alarm module, data access module. So you can, if you have version 7 configuration, you can just move that into the new data access module. We'll talk about them a little bit more. So the browse server for items, this is when you point it now into a server, you hit browse, it loads all the tags on there, excuse me, and it shows them. It shows them to you in a list, and you select the ones that you want, and you can create your alarms on those tags. That's pretty basic. Now, over the years, there's been problems where you can't import from, maybe the import doesn't work for a particular OPC server, or it's just there's so many tags on that OPC server, it's just incredibly slow. We have a new option for a CSV import. So what this is you create a CSV file and you put a friendly tag name and the item ID in this file, and then you load that text file into Win911 and you use that same import wizard to create your alarms on that. So this CSV file will just have a friendly name and the item ID in it, and then you're just running through the normal wizard that you would use to create tags. So for example, like some of you guys maybe use Delta V and you want to connect, you want to be able to bring those tags in. Well, if you try to import from Delta V, the import doesn't work. But if you export your tags to a CSV file and put them in 2 columns, then you can import that way. And then kind of similar to that is the OPC export, except that this is the full configuration of a tag. So it's not just the item ID and the name, it's the whole configuration. So you can there's different ways you can do this. If you import all your tags in through the online import, you can then export it to this Excel file and then modify it in Excel to do what you want to do there, and then import it into Win911. You can export an empty CSV, an empty Excel file, and then just manually add all your tags into the Excel file, and you're putting in the configuration and everything in there. So you could do it those 2 different ways. When you do import from this file, it will replace everything, all your tags that are already there. So make sure whatever you're importing, it's your complete configuration. It does not add to your existing tag database. It overwrites what's already there. And then there was that SQL database option, the legacy one. So I talked about that. So this won't support the new value match alarm types. I should mention that. It's only going to bring things over as Boolean alarms. We're working on a new version of this legacy importer for Win911 R6, which is the next release. We're planning around mid-November for that. And it will be able to take your old tags and convert them into the value match alarms. But for now, it only converts them into Boolean alarms. And you'll be able to convert everything over. Whereas this is only going to be able to convert the Boolean alarm that you have configured in your existing Win9 configuration. And a special note to mention is it's not compatible with SQL Server 2014. We're using a particular feature of SQL to do this, and we learned after the fact that that particular feature does not it's not supported in older versions of SQL Server. So if you're using that particular version, then you'd have to update the SQL Server to do it. Take that database and put it into a newer SQL Server, which is not ideal, but unfortunately that's the way it is. And then the last thing, import option, is the version 7 import utility, which is just an import utility we've had for a while. It's been updated for the new data access module. Put in your MDB file and your INI file. It'll convert everything over, and you can import it into Win911. Everything will match up pretty well with the new module, so you don't have to really give up anything with the version 7 stuff when it comes to your OPC configuration. So that worked out really well, and that's because we modeled a lot of the configuration after the version 7 stuff that we already had. So the paths you would take there, I think you probably already figured it out. If you have version 7, use that import utility. If you have version 3 or version 4, you're going to use that legacy database import. That also applies to 2021 R4 and older. I know this is kind of confusing, but when now in 2021, R1 through R4 have the old OPC module, and R5 is the one with the new module. We're not maintaining the old module at all. So if you go to R5, you're going to get the new module. It's for the old module, so it's gone. All right, so that's it for the data access module. The other new module that we released was the alarm and events module. What this does is we've added support for OPC Alarm and Events Classic and OPC UA Alarms and Conditions. So those are two different server types. Rather than import tags like everything we've been talking about, you just subscribe to an alarm server and you start receiving alarms. It's very similar to our Factory Talk alarm and event server connection if you've used that before. And it's basically a direct connect using OPC A&E or A&C. It's this is the same thing I was mentioning before. A&E is classic. It uses DCOM. I'm sure you guys know that. And A&C is going to use the certificate-based authentication, which again is my preference. So I'd much rather use that than the DCOM stuff. And subscriptions, I'll just run through this real quick. The way it works is you connect to a server, and then you subscribe to, or you filter alarms based on a few different criteria. So for A&E, you're filtering on the source name, which is like the tag name. It is the tag name or alarm name. Category and severity. Category is, I thought I had a thing in here to describe category, but I don't think I do. It's a way that the tags themselves are sorted within an A&E server, so each A&E server can have a different categorization for those alarms. So, for example, one categorization could be level alarms, and so if you subscribe to that category, you're going to get all level alarms, and one may be Boolean alarms, and if you subscribe to that, you're going to get all Boolean alarms. And then there's severity is the last one. For A&C, you've got one extra one. So you've got node ID, node name, which is the node ID is like the actual long syntax of a particular tag. Node name is the alarm name, and then message is like a description, and then severity is the same thing, severity. I'll show you that in a quick demo, which I'll just do right now, because that is it for the A&C part. So let me go full screen on this. Okay, let's just say a VM I've got running over here. So first I'll show you the data access stuff. I'm connected to an InTouch server right now, and I wanted to show you how you can do the ACK-sync and the ACK-sync feature. So I'm connected to InTouch in their OI gateway. I've imported alarm from their OPC server called the eStop alarm. Let me show you that if you you have to configure this within what was the SMC, and they keep changing the name. The latest name is Operations Control. I mean, couldn't find it for a while. So the way I've just got this OI gateway server set up to connect to the InTouch application, and then I've got the tags in here. So if you don't know this, you can put a tag in this is a InTouch tag, and this is this is the name you're typing in, and this is the tag it's referencing within your InTouch application, and you can put dot fields on that to access the particular dot field for a tag. So in this case, I got eStop, the ACK bit, and then whether it's an alarm. So this is the value of it. This is the ACK state, and this is the alarm state. So if I look at this configuration in Win911, I'm looking at whether it's an alarm or not, and it's a Boolean. So if it's out of alarm, it's 0. If it's in alarm, it's a 1. And then I've got my ACK sync feature turned on for read and write. So I'm reading the ACK state from this ACK tag, which when I read it, it's a 1. When I write it, it is a true. I'm putting in true, and that's just because it's a Boolean tag, and apparently I can't just write a 1. I got to write true. So if I go in here, I don't know if that's active right now. Let's look. It's not. I'm just going to turn it on real quick. I think that's right here, actually. So the alarm becomes active here in InTouch. I go over to my log viewer. You'll see it become active because it's reading from that alarm status tag. If I ACK it, you'll see the ACK state. So I'm ACKing it from Win911 through OPC. It gets ACKed here, and then it will update over here too. And so you've created this direct connect functionality through OPC instead of using the normal InTouch app, the InTouch Direct Connect. So I'm showing you InTouch. I don't know how to do this. Maybe if you guys don't like the InTouch Direct Connect because of the Sweet Link issues, or if you're doing the terminal services versions of InTouch, it can sometimes be a hassle. You could replace that with an OPC configuration and do it this way instead. Yeah, okay, that's how that works. Okay, so let's show you some, well, let me show you the value match thing real quick. So I have the new tag in. I won't actually configure it, but well, I'll just put in some bogus info. So you got your alarm type where you choose value match, and you can choose your alarm condition triggers right here. So equal to, not equal to, greater than, less, or you, and so on. Sorry, I was mistaken about the bit pick. There's no bit picking on this particular alarm type. I'm not sure why I said that, but it's got all the other same features are the same. So you've got the value substitution, read and write fields for value for the ACK. So those are all there. Okay, that's value match, and then the level alarm is when you just check the boxes and you put them in here. I don't think we really need to configure them. I think you guys get the idea of that. All right, so let's run through some import options. So there's the browse for items. This will just, you click it, you click next, it goes to the server, grabs all the tags, puts them in a list for you. You choose what tag you want to monitor, or multiple. You can select multiple. You choose what they want to alarm on, choose a notification policy it should go to, and then you import. One of the things that we did with the patch, because there were performance issues with the initial release with R5, is that the imports were kind of slow, and loading tags into this main screen were kind of slow. And the performance improvements we made are huge. I mean, you can load several thousand within a few seconds, where before it was taking a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It was really slow. So that was one of the improvements that we made with the patch. So that's the online import. I mean, it's so similar to what you've probably seen before. The CSV is, let me drag this over. This is what a CSV file would look like. So you've got the tag name and then the item ID, and you've got them all in here. So all you would do here is put your tags in there and put them in, and then you browse to that. If my CSV file is valid. Yeah, there we go. So then you're just reading those tags out of the list rather than asking your server for them, and then you're still using this wizard to create the alarms. So you would select them and then move them over. So that's what that's about. And then their last one, well, I don't have this one set up, so I can't show you the legacy one. But for the OPC export configuration, this is what the spreadsheet looks like in Excel. So you've got your item IDs, names, bit pick type, and so on. So you can put in all your details in here, including your descriptions and so on. So you can add tags to your configuration through this spreadsheet, or you can just export what you have and modify it. So you've got several tabs for the different alarm types. This is an older export, so we've got a new tab for the value match stuff. It's just not here right now. So if I wanted to show you that, browse to that file. Next, it's basically telling you you're gonna replace everything that you have if you import this. So I would select those, they're already selected, and I'd import them into my configuration. So that is the Excel import. What else is there to show? I think that's it on this guy. The heartbeat's still there. That's will increment the tag value of 1 through 9 and repeat it. That was there before. It hasn't changed. Watchdogs there. These were there too. They haven't changed. Same thing I described earlier. So that's OPC data access. It's a lot better than the previous module. It's much faster. Initialization for 1,000 tags only takes a few seconds, where it was taking a long time before. So I'm really happy with the performance of it after the patch. If you want to use it, download R5, and then you have to get the patch, which is available on the website. I'll just run through OPC Alarm and Events real quick. I'm going to add a new configuration. So I'll do OPC UA so you can see what that's like. I've got iFix running on here, which has an OPC UA A&C server. You jump over to that. So if you haven't done this before in iFix, you have to turn it on. It's already turned on. We don't have the browse feature for browsing for OPC UA servers enabled in Win91. You need a discovery server for that, and we haven't done that. So you need to know your endpoint URL for the server you're going to connect to, and we're going to copy that. And also, you need to know what your security is set to. It's set to sign in and encrypt. I don't have anonymous security turned on. So come over to Win91. I'm going to put in my URL. I also have security turned on, and for iFix, you got to put in a username, your iFix username, into these fields. So I'm going to choose my security set to sign and encrypt. I don't need to touch any of the rest of it. And then I'm going to test the connection, and it should fail. And the reason it's going to fail is because the certificate is not trusted from iFix. So if I go to show certificates, I got to trust it over on the iFix side. But the iFix certificate, actually, I think something else is wrong here. Again. Oh, I might not have turned on alarms. No, they're turned on. Oh, well, okay. So it's jumping a step on me. So sorry about that. So it's using the same certificate for iFix over here. So what normally would have happened if I've never connected to this is this certificate would show up and it would say it was the headset thing's driving me nuts. This certificate would show up and it would say untrusted. I'd have to come in here and trust it. Trusted it when I connected to the DA UA server because it's the same certificate. Win91 uses 2 different certificates for each mod. So I trusted that earlier, So then what happens is you go to the UA configuration tool for iFix or whatever UA server you'd be using. And you can see here's a certificate for Win911 and it's not trusted yet. So we've got to trust it in iFix. Once it's trusted, we'll hit test again and it should say everything is cool. So now the certificates are out of the way. We can set up a subscription and I'll just do all alarms for this. These are the options that you can filter on: node ID, node name, message, and severity. I just gonna connect to everything so I can show you all the connection. So I've got wildcard, regular expression contains, does not contain. I'm just gonna leave it on wildcard. You can, if you wanted to, if you're not familiar with these controls, you can add multiple things together. You can say node ID has to be this and the severity has to be 7. You can see their severities in iFix. What tool was that? This guy. Their severities are mapped out this way. So you can do things like that to and or things together. I don't need to do that right now. Save that. Should connect to the server, and if there are alarms active in InTouch, they'll just show up in Win911. I didn't have to configure anything, they're just there. And I can now act them. And in my mind, it's in my opinion, this is much easier to set up than go through the normal direct connect route. So you're just connecting to that OPC alarm, UA alarm and condition server. Configuration for a A&E server is just a little bit different. You're just choosing the server you want to browse for. I don't believe I have a server. I mean, this is here and it's there, but I don't actually have it set up, so it's not going to work. So that's that. So that's it for my demo. And back to this guy. If you want to download it, it's up on our website. Just download R5, which will upgrade you up to the latest version of Win911. And then you have to put that patch on. Make sure you get the patch. If you don't get the patch, then the OPC DA module is not going to work too well for you. The performance won't be great, but once you get it on there, it'll work really well. We've got feature requests up on our website, so if you have a particular feature request you'd like to see added to Win911, just go there and add them to the board or search for it, and if it's already there, just add a vote to it, and that's it. If you guys have any questions, you can put them in the chat. I currently don't see any. We can wait around to see if you guys have any. And if you don't have any, I guess that we'll call that a webinar. And always, if you have questions about how you can get up to R5, you can always email our sales team or give us a call. Email sales@win911.com. The recording will be available. I think GoToWebinar sends it out the next day, John. So just look on your inbox for that. And if you get sooner than that, I can just email you a link to it or something. Sure. I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to call that a day. Thanks for attending. And if you think of anything else you want to ask later, just let me know. Thanks, everybody. Bye.